Hello, welcome to this tutorial. Wow, we're going to learn about APIs here. I hope you're ready. So if you followed the previous tutorial, you should have found out what APIs are, what they do, and how to create one as well. So if you haven't, go back and watch that other video. For now, we're just going to create a function which we'll call this API here. Now, as you can see, I've already done it in the browser, so this is a great API to experiment with, which is api.github.com users. And oh look, it's me. So we can use this API to go and as a good way to learn, because it doesn't need any authentication headers or anything like that. So it's very easy to start learning. I'm going to do this in Node. You can do it in React or in your browser code, whatever you'd like to do. But if you are doing Node, make sure you're on Node v18 because it's kind of new. It's been out in the browsers for a while, but they've just implemented it in Node. Okay, let's go. So the first thing we need is a function to get GitHub and we're going to put it in here. Now the first thing that's different about this function is that it's not a normal function, it is an asynchronous function. What is an asynchronous function? It is a function that so when your code is evaluated, it normally goes like this. The program will run in sequentially, right? And it'll keep going through and evaluate the first function, then the second function, then the third function, etc. When you put async in front of it, it pauses the execution at that point until it's done everything it needs to do. And then it will go on to the second thing and the third thing, etc. So it doesn't mean that it's happening in parallel. That's not what we mean by asynchronous. It means that it's just pausing the chronology. It's pausing it from working further, going on to the next thing until it's done. Okay, so by using a asynchronous function, we have access to this, which is wait. And what will happen is it will wait for this to happen, for this fetch to resolve. Because of course, when you're making a fetch, you're going to the network, and you don't know how long that might take. Could take a little while, right? So you don't know how long you might need to wait for it to resolve. So a set timeout's no good. You just have to wait for it. Okay, now the interesting thing about a fetch is that you don't have to just wait for that fetch to resolve. You also have to wait for the data to come back. So await result.json. See, we've got one async function, but with two awaits in it. Okay, and then of course I want to return that data. All right, but let's see what's going on here by putting a console log in data. All right, that is literally it. That's how you contact an API and get the data back. Isn't that cool? All right, let's call this function and we'll see what it does by doing node index. Ta-da! We have got my user data back. So that's really cool, isn't it? Awesome. But what if you wanted to get your GitHub user? Okay, let's try that. So Cam. I'm going to find somebody called Cam as a GitHub user. So I'm going to pass in a username here. This can be called anything. As you see, I've put username here, and then instead of having a normal sort of dumb string here, we'll do the string interpolation thing, and we'll put username, so we'll pass that there. Now when we run this function, we are looking up the username, passing in that here, and then fetching it from the API. So let's see if that works. Yes, we have Cam. We have a user called Cam. Cam, I hope you're watching this, you're famous. Awesome. Okay, so this worked, didn't it? We were able to get data from this API. Now, this is a REST API, what they call a REST. So it's comes back in JSON format, which can be easily parsed by JavaScript. But it's kind of very simple. It's just a page with loads of information in it, with a key and a value pair. Now, the advantages with REST is it's very simple, but the disadvantages, it's not very customizable. Say I wanted to just get my bio here, and that's all I wanted. Well, I've just got to chuck all of that data out. I've got to wait for it to traverse the network. I've got to wait for it to be parsed by my script, and I've got to chuck it away afterwards. So that's a bit of a waste of time. So what we've got instead are GraphQL APIs. GraphQL APIs are a lot smarter because as well as returning JSON still, you can actually do a post request. So you're not just getting data, you're actually posting this information to the server and it is returning with this information. Okay, but not just this information. I don't want model ID here. I want description. So I can look up that data here. Now, this is just a playground within my CMS. All right, so this is actually not getting data from an API. So let's do it in our code. All right. Let's pass in our endpoint here. And the principle of it is exactly the same, but I do need an API key. All right, I've got one here that I created earlier. Now, you must not show anybody your API keys. I'm going to do this one because it's just a temporary API key that I have created just for this demo. All right. So I need to actually do a bit more with the fetch than just one argument. So did you know that fetch also has a lot more arguments? So you can provide an object, and in here we can do headers. And we need two headers. We need the authorization header with the value of bearer. Now be careful with that. You have to have bearer in front because there are different types of authorization. There's things like basic and whatever. And I'm just going to paste in my key there. Now this is not a good idea. Okay, I don't want to see any of you submitting code that has API keys, because as soon as it gets onto GitHub, everybody has access to your API. And right now I am scared because you can all access my API. But don't worry, before this video goes live, that is going to be deleted. All right? Don't even try it. All right, the other thing I needed for this API is another header, which is, let me see if I can remember it, content type JSON. So this API needs to know that it's getting and sending back JSON data, all right, which is what we are submitting. Now, that's not the only thing with this API, because of course, as I said, we need to do a post request. Now, the other one that we did have a get request on it, which is that's a standard, but that's automatic. That automatically happens with any fetch. So we're doing post instead. But not only do we need headers, but we also need a body. And the body is going to be a JSON stringify of a query, our GraphQL query. New keyboard, go away. Right. And I'm just going to use that query that we already ran. Where was it? This one. Okay, cool. Let's pop that in there. Right, this should work. This should work. Okay, let's try it. So now we've got the fetch URL that we need, the method, which is post, the headers, which includes the authorization and the content type, and we've also got a body, which is our query. Moment of truth. Let's get rid of this parameter here. And let's actually, this is bothering me. This is going to annoy me. Get data from Webiny. And let's see if this works. Please work. Please work. Aha, it worked. Okay, here we go. It's returned the JSON data for us. So it's listed the content models. Actually, it's returned null. So I've got a problem there that I need to figure out. I don't know why it might have returned null for those content models. Probably because I didn't give the right access to my API key. But that doesn't matter because really it did work. So what have we done in this lesson? Well, we've seen how to contact the GitHub API, and you can use it for, there's loads of APIs out there. There's a Star Wars API, there's weather APIs, there's APIs for cat pictures. No cats in this video. Drat. And there's loads of other stuff, like the GitHub API has quite a lot of stuff as well. So, and what did we discover this was? What type of API? A REST API. as opposed to this one, which is called a GraphQL API. And REST APIs are simpler, aren't they? But GraphQL APIs, you have to do a post request, and it's a bit more complicated, but you can choose exactly what data you want, so making it quite efficient. I hope that's been helpful to see how to use fetch and get data back from an API. Now go forth and build stuff with it.